Hello, Tyne, and welcome to another edition of I'm Pretending That People Are Paying Attention to Me on the Internet. Today, we're talking about what I wish I knew when I started out as a writer. This is been on my mind because I'm about to release a couple of big projects. I'm going to go over it really quickly just so you know that I have any kind of validity in saying that I know what anything in life is about, and then we're going to jump right in. The two things that I'm releasing my novel this year. I finished writing my third manuscript. It just needs to go through a long editing process. And then yesterday, I put out a project that I've been thinking about for a lot of years, and I'm really excited about it, and I hope that the world is too, and it's on my website, which is in the description. It's just jasperj.com. Got that username. Now let's talk about what you guys are actually here to know about. I am a fiction writer. I'm going to give other fiction writers the advice that I wish I had when I started writing fiction novels in 2015. Plans fail, people don't. So if your 2020 resolution was to read every day, or to write your whole novel in January, or write 3 billion words every 25 seconds, and for whatever reason you haven't achieved that goal, it's because the plan didn't work, not because you were a failure. Essentially, like, you know how there's 1,002 different self-help books on the internet and in bookstores, if people actually go to bookstores anymore? Well, that's because everyone needs a different approach and a different plan in order to achieve their goals. Different plans work for different people. So if your plan didn't make you reach your goal, that's because you didn't have the right plan. You have to have SMART goals. Look into that. There's a lot of videos about that. I can't explain that well enough for you to get any value out of me explaining it. 2. Your project isn't going to turn out like you imagined it was going to, and that's okay. I've started writing a lot of books. I've quit writing a lot of books. I've started writing a lot of books where by the end of it, I've cut a lot of characters, and the ending is completely different. And just like the plot is different, or it's in a different location. I've started, like, I'm a sculptor, I draw. A lot of those projects don't end up looking the way that I originally thought that they should look. And that's totally fine. A lot of times, it's gonna change because you learned something. It's gonna change because you're smarter now. It's gonna change because it works better. It doesn't have to look like how you originally wanted it to look. And if it looks completely different, that means that you can just take that original idea and write it again with a different story, if you can. That seems hard to me, but you could try. I've been working on my website for years, and I had way higher expectations for myself than was actually possible to make. But I kept redoing it, and I kept working on it, and now I'm actually pretty good at making websites, and I can make them really quickly, and I completely understand how WordPress works, and it's super fun. And you know, that's actually like point 3. Just start, no matter where you are at. Starting can be the most difficult, it can be the most exciting, and what you'll learn from just starting is gonna help you a lot more. Like, you could spend hours and hours and hours researching, and then the problems that will come up are things that you never researched and never knew you needed to research. But what you're going to learn doing it the first time is going to make it doing the second time so much easier. And then if you're doing research the whole time, then you're just freaking yourself out about it more. Like, oh, I need to have all these tools and I'm not as good as this person. I need to be able to do all this stuff. You don't. You are fine. You are good. I promise. Just start. You're going to get better. If you stick with it, then you're going to be the best at it. If you don't stick with it, then it probably wasn't meant for you in the first place. And then do research after you start on your specific problems and on the things that come up. Yeah. One of my favorite quotes is from the movie We Bought a Zoo, which came out when I was in middle school, and someone tried to kiss me in the theater while that movie was going on, so I don't have the best memories with it. But there's also this quote, and I'm going to read it. You know, sometimes all you need is 20 seconds of insane courage. Just literally 20 seconds of just embarrassing bravery, and I promise you, something great will come of it. That's the actual quote. take that for what you will, but just starting, just submitting, just putting it out into the world for the first time can be the hardest part. And as soon as you like hit the button, do the thing, finish up, just starting to start, just doing the hardest thing, it only takes 20 seconds to do in most cases, and then your life's gonna be a lot easier after that. Like, you're gonna calm down, it's gonna be okay. Hitting submit, hitting publish, putting stuff out there is not going to kill you. Most people, if you're just starting to write, you're not gonna have a big following, and that's not a bad thing. We're actually gonna talk about that later, but not having a following is totally fine, because as you grow, then your following's gonna get bigger. As you get better, more people are gonna find you. So if your first thing sucks, that's totally fine, because there's usually not a big audience there. And then as the things you're putting out gets better, more people are gonna be like, hey, that's cool. And they're gonna start finding those things, and they're gonna be like, yeah, this is fun. I like this person. And then you'll grow in tangent with your audience. Yay. 4, stop putting so much pressure on yourself. This is specifically me yelling at me. Whenever I start something, I have super high standards. And this usually ends up holding me back or backfiring, or I do too much self-editing, or I just get frozen and don't do anything at all. I usually just freak out about it a lot, and I have so much fear that I either won't start or I'll never hit submit because it's never to my standards. To counteract this, I do a lot of rough drafts where it's just like, oh, I'm just going to write out this blog post on a piece of paper, or oh, I'm just going to do the bullet points for this. And just giving yourself permission to make mistakes and do those rough drafts ends up being a lot easier than I am sitting down to write this blog post and it has to be perfect, or I am writing the first sentence of my novel. This is going to be the first sentence that people read, and it has to be absolutely perfect or else. 5, there will always be days when you don't want to work on the things. There's going to be off days. There's going to be days when you're too tired, or there's too much going on in your life, or like you just don't want to work on the thing. The life is generally in the way, I would say. The important thing is that you always come back to the project and you always recenter yourself in your work. You can be a writer and not have written in the last 2 months. Sometimes life's just like that. Sometimes you have huge anxiety and depression flare-ups that keep you from posting on YouTube for months on end, and then you come back and pretend like nothing's happened. But the fact that you came back makes you more of a YouTuber than the people who started making YouTube, realized they were only getting 10 views a video, and then gave up on YouTube completely. That's just a random example that came from absolutely nowhere in my own life. So if you need help always coming back to the thing, you can put things into your life that inspire you or harass you. I like inspiring myself more than harassing myself. I download podcasts about things that I don't want to work on. I have cute little cat sticky notes all over my apartment that's just like, do the thing that you told me that you wanted to do. And then I'm like, oh yeah, look at that cute cat that's telling me to do the thing that I keep not doing. It's good. It works. 6, enjoy the ride, okay? You're not just looking at the goal. A lot of artists make these long-term goals, like I want to make all of my money on my paintings. I want to be a best-selling author. I do. I genuinely want to be a best-selling author, but if I'm living every day of my life, I want to be published, I want to have this book deal, I want to make all my money from writing, and then every day when you're comparing yourself to this idea of you being this best-selling writer, then of course you're going to think that your writing doesn't live up to that. Of course you're going to have all these mental things about, oh, this needs to be perfect because I'm going to be this best-selling author or what have you. But if you're not genuinely enjoying the act of writing, one, you're never going to come back to it. And then that's going to make it so that you're never improving because you're never writing. But then 2, it's an extremely daunting goal to be able to say, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this. It's much easier to have those smaller goals. Like, I'm just gonna write 250 words. That's a page, basically. And those daunting goals, you're not gonna get the gratification from writing until you reach this magical thing that your life probably isn't on that course. I'm not telling you can't be a best-selling author. You definitely can. But do you really want to delay your gratification until you finish writing and editing and marketing and having someone else edit your book and getting the cover back and trying to submit to publishers and then putting it out for other people to buy it and then doing all the marketing again and then like having the book like sell enough for you to end up on the New York Times bestseller list? Do you want to wait that many years? It takes a year once your book has been accepted by publishers to then be published. Do you want to wait for the gratification for then, or would you rather be like, hey, I wrote 250 pretty good words today, or hey, I spent an hour working on this thing and I enjoyed it and I was in the flow, or hey, I finished writing this draft, or I found an editor, I wrote the query letter, I wrote the summary, I came up with the plot. If you have those smaller goals, it's gonna make it a lot easier to write, to move forward, and to be happier as a writer. Why is everyone holding themselves to such a high standard? It's so scary, so difficult. I don't know, it's confusing me. 7, share your writing process, your story of being a writer right from the get-go. People find you through that, and people relate to you like that, and that's how you find community, for one thing. And then that community is going to motivate you to continue writing and continue moving forward on your goals, and then it also develops your audience over time because these people are invested in what you're making because you're sharing your day-to-day struggles. It takes the pressure off of you from being this brand because you already have the support, because people already know who you are and what you stand for, and you're a person instead of a business, and so people can relate to you and are more likely to want to support you in all of your other future things because you're a person that they talk to and are friends with. 8. The thing that you're gonna be the best at, that people are gonna say, this was so good, when they're reading your writing, is usually gonna be the thing that you suck at in the beginning. You're gonna be reading through your draft and you're like, I'm so bad at plot. And then later people are going to be like, you're so good at plot because you put in the time and you put in the research and you put in the effort to make your plot better. And you're going to continue to grow as a person over time and build the skills in the things that you think you are the weakest at. So don't be afraid to be weak at something. Acknowledge when something is bad or not working. When you're looking at your draft, don't think this is so awful, this is the worst thing that has ever occurred. Instead, pick out specifically what you are having a problem with, and then do research on how you can get better at that thing. Number 9, okay? It's the first draft, and you have plenty more drafts after that. Not giraffes, drafts, okay? You don't have to find the right words in the beginning, because by the time you get to the end of the book, 1, your plot's probably going to have changed. 2, you're going to know your characters better. 3, you're probably going to have more voice than when you started writing the book. Everything is going to potentially change. And it goes back to putting too much pressure on yourself because you're like, this has to be perfect. It's only the first draft. Most people, like, I think I have like a chapter from my first draft of World War Marlowe. What you will learn by the end of writing your novel will make the whole first part pretty irrelevant. You'll probably think the first part was pretty bad because I have been consistently writing for years. I don't mean consistently like every day, but I mean like I have 12 manuscripts that are over 30,000 words. And every time I get so much better and then I read something that I wrote a long time ago and then I shiver and cry and die inside. But that happens from the beginning and end of every single novel. And so I have to go back and it's like, I have to completely change everything I wrote. So don't get too caught up. You have to keep developing your skills. You're not going to end up being that 70-year-old with this perfect book that is just amazing if you just kept procrastinating on writing forever because it was a first draft and you never got any words down. Because you're not going to have written anything. You have to consistently be writing, not every day, not every week, but every time you get the chance to, every time that you are able to fit it into your schedule. this is the most important one, maybe, I don't know. It's about like actually having inspiration and getting through your draft and writing good work and coming up with interesting ideas, and it's having a work-life balance, which is something that I rarely do and rarely did and wish that I had known when I started out, because I would have given myself burnout a lot less. You need life experience in order to write a book. You don't need to write what you know. You don't have to go out and skydive if you're writing a skydiving scene. What you do have to do is leave the house and see beautiful things and meet beautiful people and hear the different ways that people talk and hear the stories other people have to tell, because what you learn in that is not only going to inform your writing and make it more believable and more interesting, but it's also going to give you inspiration and give you the will to write more, because it's like, I really can write this book in this setting I was in today. Even if it's a different world, you can drag elements from the real world into your book and feed them all in and make it a better book. Your inspiration, your momentum specifically, is going to come from your life having other things in it. I wrote the most when I was in school because I had a schedule and I would come home and it's just like, this is my writing time. I can write right now. And when there's other things going on in my life, I write more. When I am completely free and have nothing going on and don't hang out with people, I usually watch a bunch of YouTube videos and then feel bad for not actually working and beat myself up over not working. But if I'm hanging out with my boyfriend, filming YouTube videos, going to work, going on trips and vacations, and having a balance between everything, I end up writing a lot more and enjoying my writing a lot more and not having too much pressure on myself to write, because having the rest and taking the time to live and deal with the problems that are coming up is just as important as the writing itself. The inspiration is just as important as the words, because you're not going to be able to find the words if you don't have the inspiration. Done. Okay. I hope you took away something from these thoughts that were mostly stream of consciousness taken from my brain hole, but also written here and like kind of as sentences and something. Have a good night, you beautiful people. Write some stuff, live life.